your portraits are in very high places. They are part of a collection of the Capitol Hill. You have done a portrait of the governor of Virginia, I believe,
Right.
congressmen. And so your artwork is in public and private collections. So that is, you are such a talented artist.
That's
And
very kind. Thank you
combining
very much.
those two like portraits, which I think that, how would you describe your style with portraits? Because I see it like very, like it's more traditional.
Well, I basically I'm interested in painting. You know, I paint on purpose. I love all sorts of genres of art. You know, I have favorite artists who are photographers and who are digital artists and who are sculptors and everything. But I love paint, and I think it's not just something that I enjoy, but from my point of view, it's the best way to create something and to give it feeling. So I want my portraits to feel like paintings. I want the paint to have a three-dimensional tactile quality to it. I love the fact that you can hold it in your hand. I mean, you don't usually walk into museums and start touching
Hmm.
paintings, but you can. You could pick it up off of the wall. I mean, all those paintings in museums at some point were picked up and off of the wall and thrown in the back of a cart, and they escaped from a castle that was under siege and put in a boat and taken across a sea, and then they were dug out of somebody's attic. You know, they're tangible, tactile objects. And so I want my paintings to feel like paintings. And in that sense, to be painterly. And there's so many abstract things that we can do to paint that for me make the paintings feel so much more realistic. We can mess with edges, we can build up paint, we can put two or three or 10 colors next to and on top of and underneath each other. And so there is a very abstract quality to my paintings that may not be apparent when you're looking at it on a screen, but when you get close to them, will hopefully make them more exciting and give a sense of life and motion to them. While at the same time, I want them to be not, artists don't usually use the word realistic because it's so loaded, but believable is the word that I use. I want them to be believable. I don't actually want them to be realistic. I mean, that sounds like such a pretentious artist thing to say, but I'm not really that interested in just what real life looks like because we've already got real life. I'm interested in how we can sort of transform real life and have it stand for something and mean something. So, in that sense, I want my paintings to be believable, but I also want them to have the energy and the dynamism that paint can have. I like some when we talk about hyperrealism. I personally don't like that, but there are some areas where I'll really push the detail, but others that I'll leave it out completely. And for me, that's what I think is interesting is deciding what's important and what's not important.
So you reminded me of an artist that you probably know, Sargent.
Oh, I love Sargent.
And
We all love Sargent.
absolutely. And that's exactly what he did. Yeah. I mean, his faces were absolutely gorgeous. But then when he worked on the fabrics and the outfits and certain areas, they were very abstract.
It's fascinating if you ever see photographs of Sargent sitters, you can see the likeness, and the likeness is perfect. But he has taken so many liberties with the expression on their face, and sort of there's almost a caricature quality about them. And he's given them so much character and personality, and essentially changed things about them so much for a specific effect that I'm fascinated by his work and always more so. But one of the things that I'm so fascinated by is the fact that he was able to change his sitters so much and still keep the likeness. I mean, it's almost a miracle. Sure. Um, I'm just trying to think of a good example. I mean, everything I painted to a certain extent is cathartic and sort of therapeutic. And every painting I've ever done to an extent I'm kind of living in vicariously. there's a painting behind me, which you probably can't see very well. I, I painted it with a lot of energy. It was sort of a fight. You know, I was kind of attacking. It's on a panel, not a canvas, but I was attacking the panel with my palette knife, and I was throwing paint at it from across the room, and I was trying to create this big explosion while at the same time painting believably and representationally, and in some places with a lot of detail. Um, I had at the time I just felt sort of confined by whatever I had been doing, and I felt like I needed to break out and escape and kind of explode. You know, I felt like I'd been wearing my seatbelt for way too long, and I needed to rip it off and stop the car and jump out and go, you know, jump off a cliff and into a great big body of water. So that's sort of what that that painting was for me. It was I didn't even have an idea. I said, all right, I've got a week and I'm going to do this painting in a week. And I asked the woman at the art supply store if she would be in it because I thought she was a very interesting looking person. She very graciously agreed to be in it. And I took some pictures of her and just set out and I tried to just demolish this this panel, and I had the time of my life doing it. And really, all the landscapes that I paint, even all the portraits that I paint, are an effort to learn something and also to sort of break free from whatever has been shackling me before. You know, whatever artistic sort of confinement I've felt, and whatever I've been, you know, saying to myself, I need to break out of this and I need to learn this and I don't quite understand this and I need to attack this so that I can get a handle on this concept because I don't really get it. They're all sort of me seeking to reach, you know, beyond my grasp and kind of grab something that I can't quite touch. I find that there's just so much you can do with oil, and certainly I tell my students who are sort of just starting with oil, it can be really frustrating. But once you and it might take a little while to get there, but once you get to the point where you can get the oil paint to do what you want it to do, there's sort of no limitations. You wind up getting it on your clothes, but other than that, you can just do whatever you want with oil paint. You know, you can almost turn it into a sculpture. You can get it to look like it's in motion. You can make it look like you can walk into the canvas and that it'll just recede forever and ever. I mean, it's really magical the things you can do with it. So yeah, so I do a lot of drawing. And I'll mess around with watercolor and pastels and things like that. Maybe when I'm on vacation, or I'll bring it into class for a week or two. But I really just love oil painting. It's just the greatest. So yeah, when I was first starting to paint, I just fell madly in love with Frederick Church and some of the artists who paint in a similar way, Albert Bierstadt and the Hudson River painters. But there was an exhibit of Frederick Church's work at the National Gallery of Art in DC, where I grew up, and our art department went to see it a few months into when I was first learning to paint. And when you're first learning to paint, you know, it's so incredibly difficult. And I couldn't see any connection between what I was doing and the paintings you'd see in museums. And then when I saw Frederick Church's work, which is the size of my house, I mean, it's so incredibly detailed, but it's not, you know, a lot of times people think you have to forsake kind of atmosphere if you want detail, but his are kind of maximum atmosphere and maximum detail. And I was just, they were just so incredibly epic, and I was so knocked out that I basically didn't paint landscapes for years because I was trying to paint like him and I couldn't. And it was so disheartening. And I didn't want to paint like Cezanne, you know, I wanted to paint like him. And it was only many years later, way after I became a professional artist, that I thought, okay, now I need to figure this landscape thing out. And I mentioned it's really the urban experience that speaks to me, that I'm really interested in. I love nature and I love painting nature, but I'm normally drawn towards urban scenes. And so when I was first starting to paint landscapes, I wanted to sort of paint urban versions of very epic 19th century landscapes. And then the more I've gotten into it, some other favorites of mine. I love the abstraction and the kind of intuitive nature of Andrew Wyatt's paintings. They seem like they're hyper realistic, but when you start looking at what he didn't paint, in broad swaths of his paintings are just missing. And then when you get up close, he's painting on paper, but he's scuffing it up with a razor blade, and he's splattering paint from across the room. I mean, they're incredibly abstract while being just dead on accurate.
Mhm.
And then I love Hopper and some of those gritty urban painters from the early 20th century. I'll always love the American illustrators. They were sort of my first love when I was first starting to paint, like N.C. Wyeth and Maxfield Parrish and some of them. And then I really like the Victorian landscape artists, people like William Logsdale and some of the Spanish artists, who were painting urban scenes in incredible detail, but still with feeling and gusto, and there was nothing boring or nitpicky or tedious about their paintings.
Last question. I always ask the artists, if you will give an idea or a suggestion to patient survivors or just people that do not feel creative, but maybe would like to give it a try and start painting, drawing, creating some art. What will be your suggestion for them?
I guess I'd say that there's something that they like, whatever it is, music or movies or architecture or flowers or traveling to Italy or, their family or there's something that they're enthusiastic about. And the act of drawing it or painting it, is sort of the act of enjoying it and experiencing it and learning about it and sort of living in it, whatever it may be. And drawing, you don't have to be any good. The point is to learn something and do something a little better today than the one you did last week. And the act of learning, I'm never going to be good at chess. I don't have time to play a lot of chess and to read chess books and to take classes on chess. But my son and I play chess, and he's getting a lot better. But I'm getting better too. And the act of getting better at something, I play the guitar and I'm not very good, but I learn new songs. And when I learn new things, I mean, we're human beings. There's just something in our brain that just lights up when we learn something new. And it's a way for me to learn and investigate the things that I'm interested in and to find new things to be interested in. And it's also a way to get away from life's troubles. I mean, that's what it's always been for me, more than anything, has been escape is probably a bad word, but there are times in life that we're dealing with things and we need to escape from them. And art has always been my greatest refuge. So, get a sketchbook and a pencil with an eraser and remember that you're going to make a lot of mistakes and just start sketching. And I bet you the third one's better than the first one and the seventh is better than the third. And it's a great thing to do.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I totally feel that art brings you to a present moment. I think that when I was going to ask you, when you go and you sketch or paint plein air, do you feel like even if the sketch turns out not to be the best, that being present is something that really, is a gift in that moment?
Very much so. I feel very, very, very alive when I'm painting outside because I'm concentrating really hard and I'm sort of taking in everything around me. And it's a very intense and a very intensely positive feeling.